like to welcome all of you this evening for coming, and thank you for coming because it's been a long season. It's been a good season, but it's been a long season. We got a little bit longer to go. We are 15 strong going to state this year. I've got 26 events qualified for state this year. We appreciate your support not only tonight but throughout the season. The kids enjoy having spectators come and watch. We've got, you're going to watch, I think 11 entries of the 26 that are qualified for state will be performing for you this evening. For those of you that have not been here before, we do this showcase for 2 reasons. And come on in. The first reason is that it gives them one more chance to perform in public, and it allows parents and friends and family to come and watch. The second reason we do this showcase is because it is a great coaching tool for me. Once we tape it, and Dale's taping it for put it on television, but we tape it to, I critique it very hard. And we look at it, we nail it down, we get it as good as we can possibly get it before we go to state. Hello, come on in. All right, so, what else was I going to say? Oh, state is May the 3rd, and it is at Wichita East. We'll head down Friday night and be ready to perform. Come on in. I think there's some chairs left. All right, our first performer tonight is, oh yes, okay. I'd like to turn it over to the Ottawa County Music Club and Rosie Prohaska.
Carlene Berry and I are members of the Ottawa County Music Club, and we like to support all the performing arts, and so we have a check to present to Mrs. Bergman from us, and we'll also serve ice cream for all of you afterward.
All right, our first performer is Nathaniel Belt. Nathaniel is a second-year sophomore. This will be his first time to state. He's qualified. Early in the season, he wrote an informative speech, which he then turned into an oration speech, but he also qualified his poetry, which he will perform for us tonight. Okay.
Okay, there's the X there for me.
Embalmers don't typically make house calls. If not buried with a splash from their ship, most casualties at sea are brought to me at the family parlor. Presently I'm lying down atop the empty coffin stacked neatly across the decks. Waves toss our small vessel as if it were a toy. The journey has been cold and slow. As night falls, Captain Lardner informs me, "We shall be among the wreckage soon. Better sleep now while you still can, Mr. Snow. The sun will be up soon enough." Ah, yes. The sun will always come up, even after the entire ship of humanity has struck its berg and sunk. The sun will rise. Later that night, I hear the ship's engines finally quit, and I know we have reached the spot where the Titanic foundered. They are out there in the water, the bodies among the debris. Oh, my name is John Snow. I am the Undertaker. I have come for the bodies. On Sunday, April 14th, 1912, the RMS Titanic is 1,400 miles out to sea. Aboard it are 2,000 men, women, and children. Although the historic tale of the Titanic has often been heard, it is now time to hear the voice of one who's been a part. The Watch That Ends the Night by Alan Wolfe. Sunday arrives, our first day of harvesting corpses. A half-mile off the boat, a flock of seagulls floats on the swells. Seagulls? So many miles from land. Lower away! As the small cutter reaches the water, I see a half a dozen bodies. They look strange, as if standing in the shallows of a pond. Heads and shoulders above the surface, the corpses spin slowly, almost gracefully. Mouth agape, each earnest face turns upward, staring at nothing, as if the dead were alive, but blind. Heads cocked slightly to better hear what rowdy living men intrude upon this silent, solemn interval. And so we begin. I turn again to the far-off flock of gulls, smudges of white floating on the green amber waves, and I admit to myself what I knew at the first sight of them. Those are no seagulls. Those are bodies. Oh my God, my God. There are bodies scattered for miles in every direction. Bodies as far as my indifferent eyes can see. Most of the corpses are gathered in clumps. A dozen men locked arm in arm in a ring. The bankers, the bedroom stewards, the elevator boys. Did they cry out in unison? Or did they sing? And how long did it take to watch each member of their choir lose voice and slump to sleep? No simple sinking would have left such a mess. We on board the ship keep as busy as those in the water. I have embalming supplies for 70 at most, 125 coffins for the first class, and 100 tons of ice in the holds. But still, we're not equipped for this many dead. There's not enough body bags, not enough scrap iron to make them all sink. By sundown of our first day, we have brought 51 bodies aboard, and try as he might, Reverend Hind cannot seem to pray fast enough. My search for the names of the dead has begun. Number the corpse, document the clothing, count the coin, the cash, the checks, describe the socks. They do not lie. Neither do the shoes. Listen to the dead men's whispered clues. I'll embalm the upper class if I can. Place the lower classes on ice. But I have to pack the badly damaged for burial at sea. For as much as it hath pleased, splash, splash, we therefore commit this body to the deep. Splash. We run out of canvas, but tomorrow a delivery ship will bring more supplies. I open my box of instruments and set about embalming. A small incision near the collarbone to accommodate the embalming tube. Another incision nearby to expose the jugular in order to drain out the blood forced out by the fluid. 128 bodies today. This morning a wireless telegram instructs us to cease all sea burials at once. In the past 4 days, we have sent over the side 116 neatly bound bodies. They are below this very moment, some 2 miles down, scattered about the sea floor like canvas cocoons, waiting for nature to make her next move. Most folks would rather not know this fact, but here's the honest truth of the thing. We are, each of us, as living creatures, already in the first stages of decay. While we are alive, the bacteria in our guts is kept at bay. But once we die, our own bodies consume us from the inside out. We must embrace this fact and learn to love it. Today, the ship Mina finally arrives with much-needed embalming supplies. And so after taking aboard 14 more bodies, Captain Lardner sets our course southwest towards Halifax. In all, we found 306 bodies. 116 we've returned to the sea. That leaves 190 aboard. The first class dead in the privacy of their coffins. The steerage laid out upon the windswept decks under loosely draped tarpaulins that rise and fall. For all the world, it looks as if the corpses can breathe as our cargo ship of sorrow picks up speed. I have been so long among the dead, I've become a kind of corpse myself. I create my own personal mask. I am the undertaker, keeping emotion at bay. My grief is a smile, my sobs are laughter, easy jokes are my whispered prayers. And finally, I leave the dead behind, and I walk to the pub for a pint with the boys. They listen to the tale, and then we raise our glasses. We make some noise, and we drink to the children who will never be fully grown, and to the travelers who never made it home.
second performer is Alex McCullough. He is a second-year junior, and will be his second year at state, and he will be performing his poetry for you tonight.
Do I like video games? Do I like video games? Good question. I love video games! I live for video games. Video games are my life. In the beginning, it was Pac-Man and Centipede and Asteroids. All the old 80s stuff. Asteroids. Now here's a game that shows you what real life is all about. Does violence lead to more violence? The debate continues. In the following poem, the author introduces us to a young man whose obsession with video games blurs the line between fantasy and reality. It is entitled, I Dreamed I Was a Video Game by Jay Parton. Asteroids. You start in the middle, you see everything around you, and all you have to do is stand your ground. All you have to do is stay in the middle. The middle is good. The middle is safe. In the middle, you can see any danger coming your way. From every angle, large asteroids are circling, taunting you, entering your space, invading your space. But you are prepared to stop them. You are prepared to stand your ground. You are prepared to stay in the middle. You're given a weapon. You assume it's a gun, but no one can be sure. All you know is, push a button, a trajectory object will fly across the room. Something will torpedo out of you. And you hope your aim is accurate enough. You hope your aim destroys those who want to crush you, who want to destroy you. You hope your aim destroys those asteroids who do not care if you live or die. Then, you learn you don't have to just stand your ground. You don't have to just stay in the middle. You can move. You can get the heck out of Dodge. You learn you can push a button and something will propel you through the galaxies. Something will torpedo you out of your safety zone. And even though you're moving, even though you're mobile, you're still awake. You have the ability to push a button and something will torpedo out of you. And you hope your aim is accurate enough. You hope your aim destroys those large asteroids that want to crush you, to destroy you, those asteroids who do not care if you live or die. And when you do hit one of those large asteroids, you quickly learn. You don't always destroy them. You don't always break them. They usually just crumble apart into seemingly smaller, definitely stronger, faster asteroids. Just like real life. I've always had an active imagination. I've always been able to think outside the box. One day it dawned on me. Why do I have to be the one trying to stand my ground? Why do I have to be the one trying to stay in the middle? Why do I have to run? So I become the asteroid. I become the one who crushes. I become the one who destroys. I become the one who does not care who lives or dies. As an asteroid, every time I'm fired upon, I pretend it does not break me. I pretend it does not crush me. I will not let anything destroy me. I watch as little by little others chip away at me with their words, take things with their actions. From every angle, others keep circling, taunting, entering my space, invading my space. But this time, I am prepared to stand my ground. This time, I am prepared to stay in the middle. I have a weapon. It's a gun. And when I push a button, a trajectory object will fly across the room. And I hope my aim is accurate. I hope my aim destroys those who want to crush me, who want to destroy me, who do not care if I live or die. I black out. I don't remember anything. I do know. I dreamed I was a video game. Does that make me crazy? I dreamed I was a video game. They just kept pushing my buttons, taunting me, pushing my buttons. Entering my space, pushing my buttons, invading my space, and pushing my buttons. This time, I defended my ground. This time, I stayed in the middle. All I remember after the incident is I moved. I got the heck out of Dodge. When you found me, I knew my game was over. So here I am, sitting at this table, bright lights, blinding, taunting me, pushing my buttons, and it's game over for me. So do I like video games? I love video games. I live for video games. Video games are my life. Does that answer your question? Yeah.
Our next performance will be from Coral Wise. She is a second-year sophomore. This is her second year to state, and she will be performing her informative speech for you.
Do you have a headache? Here, take a couple ibuprofen. Heartburn? Try some of this gross, chalky stuff. Fever? Good thing we have some of this red goop. Yeah, our medicine may taste horrible, but be thankful we have it. Because before there was Tylenol, ibuprofen, or even that purple goop that's supposed to taste like grape was invented, there were some pretty nasty alternatives. Today, we're going to look at the history of medicine. I will show you our partnership with other living creatures. We will then take a look at some medical techniques that didn't last. And last, some medical techniques from the past that we still use today. Let's begin by taking a look at our partnership with other living creatures. For centuries, science and nature have aided healers and doctors in reducing pain and saving lives. One of the grossest ways to make a guy or gal feel better is by using bugs. Creepy bugs, crawly bugs, medical bugs. A very successful example is the maggot. According to plastic surgeon Dr. Anthony Young, medicinal maggots was first widely reported during the time of Napoleon, where his general surgeon reportedly used maggots as a way to clean soldiers' battlefield wounds. Maggot therapy was also used during the Civil War and World War I. During the Civil War, doctors knew that maggots were a good way to cure gangrene. Gangrene is when a human body part starts rotting because of infection, and applying maggots helps because they find rotting tissue a very delicious snack. Doctors would apply maggots to the affected area in hopes that you might actually get to keep your toes. Another successful bug remedy was the leech. While the sight of a wriggling, blood-sucking leech might make some people feel queasy, the spineless worms can actually make you feel better. According to Miserable Medicines, leeches have been used for centuries, for anything from headaches to stomach aches. They're good for cleaning up gunk, and their slime actually helps with blood flow. A plus is, once they're full, they just sort of pop off. Now, everyone's heard the saying, got a frog in your throat? Well, according to the author Joy Massive, this saying came from the 1600s. When kids in parts of Europe and America would get sick, a very common treatment was to take a tiny live frog, wrap it in a cloth, and literally stick it under the kid's tongue until the frog died. The cloth was to keep the poor child from swallowing it. Talk about croaking. Let's move on now to look at some medical techniques that didn't make it past their prime. Thankfully, some techniques didn't make it to the generations, such as using urine mouthwash to kill bad breath. I'm not sure I would want to stand too close to the person using that brand. Another technique involved the early form of bandages. According to the article Miserable Medicines, until the late 1800s, way before the first Band-Aid was invented, surgeons would literally use old sawdust that had been swept off the floor and packed into pads as a form of gauze or covering. They were always surprised when their patients died. Finally, an English doctor figured out that it was the sawdust that was killing the patients, not the actual wound itself. In 1920, an English doctor figured out that he had a very clumsy wife named Josephine. She would always cut and burn herself while cooking and cleaning. So one day he took a tiny piece of tape, put a little bit of sterile dressing on it, and voila, the first Band-Aid was invented. A more recent case, just 150 years ago, some Americans and Europeans believed that mummies had ancient healing powers. So they would literally grind the mummies into powder and use that powder as medicine for all different kinds of diseases. Yum, would you like some mummy for your tummy? On another case, can't stand the taste of dried up old dead guys? Well, according to the book History's Grossest Medical Treatments, in ancient Rome, human liver and blood were thought to be powerful treatments for epilepsy. And it was best if that liver came from someone who was strong, brave, and healthy. So if you suffer from epilepsy, it might be a common hobby of yours to hang around the Coliseum, in case one of those strong, healthy, brave gladiators happen to get a sword through the gut. Finally, let's look at some medical techniques from the past that we still use today. Let's begin by taking a trip back about 5,500 years to ancient Mesopotamia, where you would see people gargling salt water for sore throats, applying ointments, using sprays, and even using enemas. According to the book Miserable Medicines, ancient Egyptians also added many brews to history's medicine shelves. They made over 600 different drugs that they used to cure anything from baldness to itchy toenails. They also made laxatives out of castor oil and cenopods, and antacid from crumbled up peppermint leaves and peppermint, which is just another version of Pepto-Bismol. Now, we've all seen Vaseline, the popular product that almost everyone's had to use at least once. Well, according to the author Joy Massiff, Robert Cheeseborough invented it in 1859. He found it in an old oil driller that would always spit out this black gunk, and it got stuck to everything. The good thing about it, according to a worker, was that it made his hands softer. So Cheeseborough put some in a jar and used it on himself for experimentation. Turns out, it really made your hands softer, and it helped heal wounds more quickly. So of course, the word got out, the formula was tweaked a little bit here and there, and now it's in many homes across America. In conclusion, today I've shown you that modern medicine would not be where it is today without the past trial and error of ancient medicines. I've shown you the creepy crawly parts of medicine, some medical techniques that didn't last, and finally, some techniques from the past that we still use today. So next time I have to drink that purple goop that does not taste like grape, I won't complain, because it's a lot better than sticking a live frog under my tongue.
Okay, our next performer is Jade Price. She is a second-year sophomore, and this is her first year going to state, and she'll be performing her prose for you.
Rich the witch woke up grouchy, grumpy, and very hungry. Her belly grumbled for something delicious, something delightful, something special. But what? It wasn't purple mousetail stew. No, she ate that yesterday for lunch. Maybe some mashed dragon tongue pudding. No, Rich was not in the mood for anything quite that sweet. Perhaps a taste of boiled lack of buzzard feet. That always did make her mouth water, but not today. Today, the Grinch wanted something truly tasty, something really yummy, something special, and that can only mean piggy pie. Have you ever had a craving for something that your brain and stomach tell you nothing else will do? Well, Grinch the Witch hears her stomach grumble, and all she wants is Piggy Pie by Marjorie Palantini. Yes, yes, piggy pie. I can taste those plump, juicy pink piggies right now, Grinch said, smacking her lips. She hurried to the pantry, pulled down her old hag cookbook from the top shelf, picked off a spider, blew off the dust, and turned to the secret recipe on page 342. Grinch ran her bony finger with the long green nail down the list of ingredients. 1 eye of a fly. She checked the pantry shelves. No problem. 2 shakes of rattlesnake's rattle. No problem. 3 belly hairs of a possum. No problem. 8 plump pigs. Problem? I don't have any piggies. How can I make piggy pie without even one puny pink pig? Grinch pulled her hair feet, she paced the floor. She wanted piggy pie. She wanted piggy pie very much. She said, tapping the lucky wart on her chin. Now where would I find 8 plump pigs? Gritch thought, and thought, and thought. Aha! The circus! Yes, yes, the circus! The circus? No, no, not the circus. You don't find pigs in the circus. She thought harder. Aha! The zoo! Yes, yes, the zoo! The zoo? No, no, not the zoo. You don't find pigs in the zoo. She thought much harder. The farm? Yes, yes, the farm. You find piggies on the farm. There was still just one teeny tiny little problem. Where to find a farm? Where else? Gretch let her bony fingers do the walking and opened yellow pages to F, where she found a very large app. This was it! She put her broomstick in gear and headed over the river and through the woods to Old MacDonald's farm. I've got you in my sights now, you little pokers! Gretch zoomed in for a thump arch landing. She spit straw, fanned her still smoking tootsies, and lifted her goggles. There wasn't a pig in sight. Where'd they all go? Gretch shouted to a duck. Hey, duck, I said, where are all the piggies? I need 8 plump piggies for piggy pie. The duck quacked here and it quacked there. Here quacked, there quacked, everywhere quacked. No piggies. What do you mean no piggies, you dizzy duck? I just saw Paso piggies down here not a minute ago. Hand over those hogs, you little quacker. Gretch pulled her hair, she stomped her feet. She even threatened the duck with one of her most evil spells. The duck was not impressed. It wasn't even scared. It gave the Gretch another quack and waddled away. So who needs a dumb duck? Being careful where she stepped, Gretch wandered across the meadow. Yoo-hoo! Moo! You, where are the piggies? I need 8 plump piggies for piggy pie. The cow moo-mooed here and it moo-mooed there. Here mooed, there mooed, everywhere mooed and mooed. No piggies. What do you mean no piggies, you lumpy-looking cow? I need 8 plump piggies for piggy pie. Bark over the pork, you walking milk machine, or I'll curdle your cream. No piggies. Gretch pulled her hair and she stomped her feet. She even threatened the cow with one of her most evil spells. The cow stared at Gretch, swatted a fly with its tail, and lumbered away. Cows, who needs them? So she tried the barn where she stopped a chicken in its tracks. Okay, bird brain, where are the piggies? I need 8 plump piggies for piggy pie. A bark, no piggies, a bark. What do you mean no piggies, you feathered drumstick? What's going on here? Where's the boss of this heap of hay? The chicken flapped a wing toward old MacDonald. Gretch looked him over once, twice. You're Old MacDonald? Don't look much like a picture, do ya? The farmer thumped his suspenders and shrugged. Look, Shorty, I've been quacked here, moving there, quacked everywhere over this farm. I need 8 plump piggies for piggy pie. Where are the piggies? No piggies. What do you mean no piggies, you flea-bitten seed spreader? You must have piggies. Gretch pulled her hair and she stomped her feet. She even threatened him with one of her most evil spells. No piggies. Her stomach growled, it grumbled, but there were no piggies. There'd be no piggy pie. Now what was she going to eat? Excuse me, little lady. Wolf's the name. Let me give you some advice. Forget about the pigs. Forget about the pigs, said Gretch, eyeing the wolf. He nodded. They're too tricky, trust me. I've been chasing 3 little pigs for 4 days. He huffed and puffed. I'm starving, look at me. I'm nothing but skin and bones. Gretch hitched his arm. Well, not quite. Mr. Wolf, I have the most wonderful idea. I was thinking, since you haven't eaten and I haven't eaten, why don't you come home with me for lunch? I'm a very good cook. Why, that does sound tempting, the wolf said as he looked at Gretch and smacked his lips. Are you sure it wouldn't be any problem? Problem? No problem at all, she said as walked up arm in arm. I always enjoy having wolf for lunch.
Okay, our next little lady is Kendra Gonzalez. She is a third-year senior. This is her third year at state. She is the current poetry state champion, and she also has qualified her IDA, her prose, and her solo humorous. And her solo humorous is what she will perform for you right now.
I used to love to take long walks through the forest, but now I rarely ever leave my home. There's just too much danger in the world today. My mother, she doesn't get me. She tells me, "You're too young to be an old maid. Why do you lock yourself up in the house all the time?" To which I reply, "Mother, you forget that when I was a little girl, a wolf tried to eat me. And then I saw a hunter shoot the wolf, and Grandma climb out of his belly with a slime on her that was the same color as my cape. No, thank you. I will stay in my house, where I know it will always be nice and safe." Every time my doorbell rings, I always take a long look through my peephole, and if I see anyone with big teeth or big eyes staring back at me, I simply don't answer the door. The world's most beloved heroines have captured the hearts of millions for generations. Today, some of the most famous heroines will tell us their own story in The Grimm Girls by Gregory T. Burns. To quote Shakespeare, "The sweetest honey is loathsome in his own deliciousness, and Gretel is the proof in the pudding." Hello. Before my mother died, my brother and I, we weren't allowed to have sweets. Mother wanted us to have pretty smiles. And pretty smiles meant no cavities. So we ate healthy. But when my mother died, however, our father got remarried. And our new stepmother rarely gave us any food at all. She made dinner every night, but it was for my father and her only. When we would tell my father we hadn't eaten yet, she would call us "Simmers!" and then send us to our rooms. Out of desperation, my brother and I ran away. But when we came to the house in the forest, we couldn't believe our luck. True, the witch was mean and locked my brother in a cage. But the way we saw it, we left one witch at home who wouldn't give us any food at all, for another that let us eat all the candy we wanted. As for pushing the witch in the oven, it was an accident, and I feel bad about it. Sort of. But, like my father says, play with fire and you're gonna get burned. And he was right, because that oven cooked that witch like a Thanksgiving turkey. My mother used to say what goes around comes around, and she was right too, because after eating nothing but cookies, cake, and candy for weeks on end, I got so fat, all I ever did was sit around the house. And I mean, I sat around our house. And poor Hansel is now a diabetic and has to take insulin shots every day. They say revenge is sweet, but revenge is overrated. We'll now hear from Snow White, who's dealing with her own demons from a very traumatic encounter. La, 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 la. Oh, hello. I'm not a prejudiced person, but after living with the 7 dwarfs, only normal-sized person I had to talk to was a saleswoman who used to come to our cottage to sell me lace, apples, and jewelry. And to this day, I wear no jewelry, and I cannot stand the taste of apple crisp, apple crumble, applesauce, or even apple pie. My psychiatrist tells me.
You are a classic example of post-traumatic stress syndrome.
Every year, my husband tries to get me to go to the circus with him, but I just can't do it. I have a fear of short people now, which is why I fear we will forever remain childless.
Rapunzel, Rapunzel, let down your hair.
So we can cut it off. We'll now hear from Grimm's Hairy Lady. I can't tell you how many shampoo companies have asked me to be their spokesperson. Honestly, you think I was the only girl in the world who had long hair. But I just couldn't find happiness in front of the lights and cameras. Let's face it, I'm shy. And you would be too if you spent all your formative years locked in a tower waiting to be rescued. True, I married the prince that rescued me. But I was so young, I wanted to experience the world. I wanted to swim in a lake. I wanted to own a pet. Meow, meow. I love cats. I even wanted to get a job. But my husband couldn't stand the thought of his beautiful wife working for someone else. So finally, he let me start my own business. That's right. I am an entrepreneur. If you're ever in town, stop by and see me sometime. You'll find me at Rapunzel's Red Hair Salon in the Fairytale Mall. What can I say? Hair, it's one of my passions. Cinderella, dressed in yellow, went to the dance and found her a fella. It was a disaster. Oh, well. Okay, so I married a prince, right? But that didn't work out too well. He was too weird for me. I mean, all he really wanted was a permanent foot model around the house. And he had a weird fetish with feet. It was quite the turnoff. I mean, don't get me wrong. Like most women, I love shoes. I love every kind of shoe. But glass slippers, I think fairy godmother could have been a little bit more practical. I'm lucky I didn't cut my foot. But I finally decided to leave the prince. What was a girl who didn't want to be chained to a chimney by her obnoxious sisters? Those women gave a new meaning to the word domestication. To do. And finally, the age-old story of a young girl who turned to a life of crime. I'll bet you think you know all there is to know about me, don't you? Yeah, I've heard it all before. Goldilocks is the little blonde girl that broke into the three bears' house. Goldilocks ate their food. Goldilocks slept in their beds. Yeah, well, I say get a life. You don't know how hard it is being a little girl, alone and lost in the forest. You may not know this, but there are no golden arches in the woods. So yeah, I broke into their house. Yeah, I got a lot of publicity for it, but I didn't stop there. I also broke into the three pigs' house, and I once climbed a beanstalk and stole some gold jewelry. But that's a different story. And I'd still be looking for something to take if I didn't get caught. That's right, I'm now serving a 50-year sentence in the fairytale jail. By the time I get out of here, I won't be Goldilocks anymore. I'll be old Graylocks. So if there's one thing I have to tell you today, it's this. Crime doesn't pay. If you treat everyone the way you want to be treated, you should, by all accounts, live happily ever after. Our next performer will be Jesse Kramer. He is a second-year senior. This will be his first year at state, and he will be performing his prose for you.
I want you all to remember the philosophy of the U.S. Navy SEALs. Lieutenant, I will never quit. My nation expects me to be physically harder and mentally stronger than my enemies. If knocked down, I will get back up every time. I will draw on every remaining ounce of strength to protect my teammates. I am never out of the fight. Being a trained Navy SEAL, Marcus Luttrell's first priority is safety of himself and his teammates. But living in constant fear of returning home only to be arrested for military brutality plagues the minds of many servicemen. In the following selection, we are exposed to the day-old truth that when it comes to war, there is no mercy. It is taken from The Lone Survivor by Marcus Luttrell and Patrick Robinson. This place was perfect, with the most commanding views any surveillance team could wish for. All we had to do was burrow into a loose, rocky shallow, keep our heads down, stay camouflaged, and concentrate. You see, I was lying under a fallen log. Danny was 50 yards ahead, positioned higher than me among the rocks. Axe was to my right, and Danny was to my left, in the last of the trees. Of course, he was the only one of us with shade from the burning sun. Hey Danny, want to switch places? Screw you. Suddenly I heard footsteps right above me. A man wearing a turban. He's carrying an axe. He jumped right over me. I wheeled around, pointing my rifle straight at him. He was more startled than I was. I told him to sit down. Then up over the hill came two more. I motioned for them to do the same. Murphy and Danny made their way up and immediately saw what was going on. Like me, they noticed that one of the three was just a kid, around 14 years old. The question was, what do we do now? I tried to ask them if any of them were Taliban. They all shook their head. No Taliban, no Taliban. Murphy said, we had three options. One, we kill them here, hurl their bodies over the edge. Two, kill them here, hide the bodies the best we can. Or three, we let them go and get the hell out in case the Taliban come looking. Either way, we're not murderers. We're active duty behind enemy lines. We have the right to do whatever we need to stay alive. Come on, man. The military decision is obvious. Let them go would be wrong. Danny, look, I don't care what you guys decide. Just tell me what to do. I just stood there. And I looked at these sullen Afghan farmers. Not one of them tried to say a word. They didn't need to. Their glowing stares said plenty. We gotta let them go. That was the stupidest, most southern-fied, lame-brained decision I ever made in my life. That's when all hell broke loose. The Taliban unleashed an avalanche of gunfire at us. Axe flank left. Murphy was blasting away straight over my head. I can hear Murphy yelling, "No option, buddy, kill them all. We're going to die out here if we're not careful." Now Danny, he was in all kinds of trouble. That's when they shot him. Right in the base of the neck, saturated in blood. All I remember is he would not let go of his rifle. I picked him up by his shoulder and started dragging him back towards cover. Right then a bullet caught him in the upper part of his face. I heard it at home. Danny Diaz died in my arms that day. And still the gunfire never abated. The ground shook, the trees swayed. We tried against all odds. I knew we weren't in great shape, but we were SEALs. We were still confident. We were never going to surrender. No man in the right mind would have made it this far in the Afghan mountains and would have dreamed of surrendering. Then Axe came stumbling towards me. His head pushed out, blood running down his face from the most shocking head wound. They shot me, bro. Can you help me? What could I do? I turned towards Murphy. He groped his pocket for the mobile phone he dared not to use because it would betray our position. Lieutenant Michael Murphy walked out into the firestorm. "My men are taking heavy fire out here. We're getting picked apart. We need help." Right then a bullet caught him in his back. I saw the blood spurt from his chest. He slumped forward, but he stood up again. he made one last violent attempt to save his remaining men. Was there ever a greater commander to risk his own life, his everything, to save his remaining men? I heard him screaming my name, "Help me, Marcus, please help me!" Then it stopped. I looked up in time to see 4 Taliban warriors barrel several rounds into his dead, lifeless body. Murphy was dead. Danny was dead. And Axe was dying. I resolved to make my way down where Axe was and die there with him. Hey man, you're all messed up. They got us good, bro. You stay alive, you hear me, Marcus? And please, tell Sydney I love her. Those were his last words. To this day, I have nightmares about it. I think about Afghanistan hourly. I lie here with the TV on, watching that same old movie I've seen 50 times. It now serves as my security blanket, letting me know I'm home, safe, in bed. I would give anything to have my men back and have my life back. It was my greatest honor to serve with those men on and off the battlefield. They died doing what they love, defending this great country of ours. And in my mind, there's no greater service than that. I will never give up on the memory of those men that lost their lives in the mountains that day, because they never gave up on me.
Up next is Adam Laws. She is a first-year freshman, and this is her first year going to state. She will be performing her poetry for you.
I was in Carson's when I saw it. Blue. It was love at first sight. The sales lady said, "I don't know, dear. A girl with your coloring, you're really a fall, and blue is definitely a winter." I ignored her. I was sure Blue and I were made for each other. But the first time Blue and I went out together, my mother said, "Blue makes you look cheap." And my brother yelled, "Hey, the circus is in town. Can we get tickets?" And my dad said,
"Your lips are blue. Are you sure you should go to the movies tonight?"
"What do they know?" Okay, maybe Blue is a little bit different. So what? And then my best friend Lisa said, "I don't know, Jessie. A girl with your coloring, you're really a fall. And Blue is definitely a winter." That did it. I mean, I like being different. I like taking chances once in a while. But some relationships just aren't meant to be. And in the end, I guess you can say I gave Blue the kiss off. Jessie is a true teenager with the same concerns all teenagers face, especially ones with parents and a younger brother. The following poems will give us Jessie's take on family and a typical high schooler's life in Blue Lipstick by John Granditz. Robert, say excuse me. What? Say excuse me. When you burp, you're supposed to say excuse me. Why? Because that's what you do. Right, like you do everything you're supposed to do. You always clean your room. You always tell Mom and Dad exactly where you're going and exactly who you'll be with. Whatever, but I always say excuse me because it's good manners. Achoo! Excuse me. No, when you sneeze, I'm supposed to say God bless you. So you ask God to bless me? That's a real laugh. He must put that in the funny pages of his daily heaven news. Shut up. You shut up. Lisa had this cool idea to do my hair a total extreme way. So After school, we went to the drugstore and bought some hair bleach and some blue dye. It was even on sale. First, we stripped my natural color with the bleach, which made it look ancient, like I turned into my grandmother or something. It was scary. We put on the blue dye right away. Then, something went really wrong. One side of my hair was limp and pale, and the other side was blue. It was a disaster. Lisa said, "Wait till it dries." But that didn't help at all. Instead, my hair felt crispy instead of soft. It didn't even have that glistening look to it anymore. I am so sorry, Jessie. Do you want to borrow some scarves for school? School? I couldn't go to school. I'd be totally humiliated. My life was ruined. I was seriously thinking about shaving my head and telling everyone I had cancer and saying, "It's a miracle, I'm cured," when it grew back. When Mom came home, all she could say was, "Honey," and I started to cry, and I couldn't stop. But finally, I got the story out, and she said, "Jessie, every woman makes a big, big hair mistake once in their life, and some women do it over and over. When you go to school tomorrow, hold your head up high and say, 'This is the way I planned it.'" Then she gave me a hug. I went to my room to cry some more, only I didn't cry. I actually felt better. My mother had called me a woman. At lunch on Saturday, I was telling my brother about the ancient art of reading people's personalities by examining their bumps on their head. "Read my bumps! Read my bumps!" So I put on a good act. I ran my hand over his scalp and said stuff like, "Ooh, girls are attracted to you. Boy, does he eat that up." Then I did a dramatic pause. "Uh-oh." "What? Tell me." "Well, I'm afraid you'll never be a famous scientist. In fact, instead of a bump in the science area, you have a dent." Of course, he got all freaked out and said stuff like, "But I have to be a famous scientist. It's all I ever want to be." Like I didn't know. So I acted all sympathetic and said stuff like, "Lucky for you, there's an ancient way to fix these kinds of things." Then I smacked him on the head with the soup spoon. "Feel that? That's your science bump. Now you can be a famous scientist." I walked into the kitchen. Robert was sitting at the table eating ice cream. I sat down beside him and casually pushed up my sleeve so he'll see it. My new tattoos. They say sex, drugs, and rock and roll in spiky goth letters. What the heck is that? This is working out just fine. It's the tattoo. What's wrong with you? Why are you lisping? I stuck out my tongue, and there it was, the perfect silver stud, right in the center. Yes! You are in so much trouble. Wait till I tell Mom, Dad. Mom, she's gonna kill you, and Dad, he's gonna ground you for life. I gave him a big yawn. Who cares? You will when I tell them. They're at the neighbors, and I'm gonna go get them right now. He took off, and I could hear him yelling, "Mom! Dad! How perfect is this?" I slide off the magnetic tongue stud, wash off the temporary tattoos, and while I'm waiting for my parents to come rushing home, I practice saying, "I don't know what Robert's talking about. Maybe he needs counseling. This will be great."
Our next performance will be from Dakota Backus. He's a 4th-year senior. This will be his 3rd year going to state. He is qualified in IDA, duet, prose, and inform. And tonight he's going to do his inform for you. Is it here?
Pop-Tarts? Flashlights? What did these two have in common? At first, you may think absolutely nothing, and you would have been right. At least up to a few years ago when Walmart figured out there is a similarity. Hurricanes. Walmart used an algorithm to figure out that anytime people are expecting hurricanes, they rush out and buy two very important survival items: flashlights and Pop-Tarts. Now, as a sales strategy, Walmart puts a huge stack of Pop-Tarts right next to the flashlights during hurricane season. Technology and computer algorithms have improved drastically throughout the years. Today, I will be showing you just what an algorithm is. We will then look at what we're currently using algorithms for. And finally, I'll show you where this technology is going and how much it can change our lives. Let's begin by looking at just what an algorithm is. An algorithm is basically a step-by-step process that computers use to solve everyday problems or to do tasks more efficiently. Alright, for a computer to work, it has to have a program. Now, to get that program, you have to tell the computer what to do step by step. The computer then follows that program step by step to accomplish the end goal. But when you get to tell a computer what to do, you also get to tell it how to do it. This is where an algorithm comes in. Alright, if that made no sense at all, here are a few examples. Let's say my friend is coming to town, and he's arriving at the airport. Now, he needs to get from the airport to my house. And there are three ways he can do this. First, take a taxi. Step 1, when you arrive, go to the taxi stand. Step 2, get in the taxi. Step 3, tell the driver the address. The second way is to call me. Step 1, when you arrive, call my cell phone. Step 2, meet me outside a baggage claim. And the third way is to take the bus. Step 1, when you arrive, get on bus number 70. Step 2, transfer to bus 14 on Main Street. Step 3, get off on Elm Street. And step 4, walk 2 blocks north to my house. Now, all of these examples get my friend to the same place, but they all get in there a different way. For him to get there successfully, he had to know the positives and negatives to each of these examples. One important use of algorithms is in sorting. Some of the different sorting algorithms are the bin sort, merge sort, bubble sort, and shell sort. Let's say you have a million integers between 1 and 10, and you need to sort them all. The bin sort might be your best option. But if you have a million book titles you need to sort, the quick sort's probably what you want to use. Again, it's very important to know the strengths and weaknesses to every algorithm. Let's move on now and look at what we're currently using algorithms for. The most common and well-known algorithm in today's world is a search engine, Google. Google uses keywords and phrases to help sort through billions of different pages to find something related just to your search. The more keywords and phrases you add, the better your results are. Let's say I want to buy some tennis shoes. I might go to Google and type in tennis shoes. Now I'm going to get any page that has anything to do with tennis shoes. But if I type in Nike tennis shoes for sale, I'm only going to get Nike tennis shoes that I can buy. Even though Google is the most used search engine in the world, they're not taking a break. According to Danny Sullivan, a search engine expert, Google is now using a new algorithm called Hummingbird. Hummingbird is supposed to make your searches easier and more efficient. Police forces now use algorithms to help stop crime before it happens. An example of this is a program, Crush. Crush uses data compiled from across the entire city to find where crime is most likely to happen. Then it sends cops to those areas. According to TheGuardian.com, Memphis, Tennessee uses this, and their crime has gone down by 24% in the last 6 years alone. The U.S. National Security uses algorithms to help interpret the colossal amount of data that collects from court documents to international telecommunications. You know, spy stuff. Walmart isn't the only one that uses algorithms. Target has also begun to use them. Target can now predict who's going to have a baby and when, just based off the products you buy. Then they send you coupons for baby stuff. But the most complicated algorithms are used in science, where they are used to design drugs and help model the climate. And finally, let's look at where this technology is going and how much it could change our lives. Futurists can get your hopes up really high about what new, exciting technologies or just around the corner. Teleportation was supposed to have begun years ago. They said it's just around the corner, just a few decades away. But I don't see anybody being teleported. VCRs were once high tech, and now they're basically obsolete, before most people could even learn how to program one. But the most controversial part of the internet is the problem of keeping it safe. With criminal organizations like hacktivism stealing billions of dollars every year over the internet, something is going to have to change to be able to keep people safe and comfortable while they browse the web. Algorithms are now being used to predict natural disasters. According to Annalee Newitz, there's a new app being used more and more on the coast called Shake Alert. Shake Alert is able to give a notification of an earthquake up to a minute beforehand. Now, in the Midwest, that might not sound like much of a warning, but even a minute is enough time to slow down a train, stop a car, or help prepare a patient in surgery for the earthquake. And in the future, that minute may turn into 2, then 5, then who knows how far in advance they may be able to give a warning. Today, I've shown you just what an algorithm is. We then looked at what we're currently using algorithms for. And finally, I showed you where this technology is going and how much it could change our lives. So, the next time a hurricane comes storming through Kansas, remember, Pop-Tarts and flashlights.
Our next performance will be from Kristen Line and Jeffrey Metzler. Jeffrey is a second-year sophomore, and this will be his second time at state. He is also qualified in prose and original oration. And Kristen is a four-year senior. This is her fourth time to state. She is the current solo humorist state champion, and she is also qualified in poetry, solo humorist, and for duet.
Are you zoomed out, Bergie?
Zoned out.
Harry, come here.
What?
Come here and listen to this.
Oh, listen to what?
Just listen. It's a poem. It's called In the Midst of It All.
Ah.
A breeze blows through acres of leaves,
Oh,
winding in and out of massive trees. Together we move, and in our quaint little nest, we leave the world outside and nature to rest. God has created the land and sea, and in the midst of it all, graciously gave you to me. What do you think?
It's a crock, that's what it is. No one would feel that way about marriage.
This is our special wedding anniversary, may I remind you?
Yes, must you keep reminding me?
You talk as though this marriage were a curse.
A curse? No. A plague? Perhaps.
Finding the perfect mate is really a game of chance.
And after many years of trial and error, Harry
And Edith,
decided to stick with the ones that they chose in
Let's Go Already by Joshua John McKay. A plague? Is that what I am to you? Fine, let's divorce.
What? You want to end wedded bliss on our anniversary night? Because if you were to divorce me, that's many of your years wasted. At least now you have a purpose.
And what's that?
To annoy me, that's what. At what time are our reservations at this Chez Elefante?
It's called Cher Elegante.
Cher Elegante? What kind of farcantan is that?
It's French.
French? Well, I am telling you this right now.
Here we go.
I am not eating snails. I spend all day on my garden trying to kill them. I am not spending $50 a plate just to eat them.
You're not paying, the children are.
I know the children are. It's the principle of the matter.
You have no principles, Harry.
I have principles. I was born with them because my mother was the most principled person on this planet.
Your mother's dead, that's what she is.
Don't you talk about my mother like that. My mother was a saint.
Your mother was Jewish. How could she be a saint?
Don't start with me, Edith. What time are the reservations?
5, are you happy?
That gives us
1 hour, and you still have to get dressed, and I still have to do my hair and makeup.
Oh, good. I was hoping you'd do something with that face. You could scare little children walking down the street with that thing. What is this? In the midst of it all. Edith, dear. You know I kid, right? A lot of things I say I don't really mean. I guess what I'm trying to say is I'm sorry if I hurt your feelings. Ah, I'm watering my plants. Edith, there is something on my roses. Oh, it's just a buffoon. Edith, come look at this buffoon.
What are you talking about, buffoon?
You know the things that butterflies come out of.
A cocoon, Harry. It's called a cocoon.
You buffoon, what's the difference? Only we could go back to speaking Yiddish.
You don't even know Yiddish.
I know Yiddish, and in this day and age, it's all one needs.
That is an ignorant statement. Not everyone is as vulgar as you are.
Oh, whatever, just come look at this buffoon.
I don't want to see the cocoon. I've seen a cocoon before.
When have you seen a cocoon?
Central Park, that's where. Are you happy?
When have you ever... Where are you going?
I'm going to get my curling iron out of the front closet.
You keep your curling iron in the front closet.
Yes.
Since when have you kept your curling iron in the front closet?
Since you and I have been married, Harry dear, I have kept my curling iron in this front closet.
Ah. You know, that's probably why people don't come over anymore. They come here to put their coats in there, but oh, what do they find? A curling iron hanging from the rod. You might as well put a dead body in there.
That doesn't even make any sense. There was a very big difference between a curling iron and a dead body hanging from the rod.
There is no difference at all.
Just shut up. Just don't talk. I'm going to go get my curling iron out of this front closet where I will keep it until the day I die.
Fine. And when you do die, I'll move it to the bathroom.
You can throw it out for all I care. I'll be dead.
Edith, don't talk like that.
Like what?
Death. When I think about you dying, I think about you dying.
Oh, Harry.
How lonely I'm going to be without you.
You know, coming from you, that actually means something. Now I'm going to go curl my hair. You go water your plants. Can't believe we're going to see Cats tonight. Always wanted to see a Broadway show.
They make muzzles for humans.
Harry, hurry up. I don't want to be late for our reservations.
Not eating snails.
Yes, Harry. No snails. Harry, you look at me. If you embarrass me tonight, I will kick your tush all over this room. You're disgusting. Harry, does this skirt make my tush look big?
The skirt? Your tush looks big in anything.
Well, thank you!
Oh, it's nothing you can help. You were born with it. As a matter of fact, it looks like you had a twin sister who was never born. Stuck up in that thing. Yeah. Woo! Don't give me that look. I meant nothing bad.
You said my tush was as big as a person!
I meant nothing bad. I happen to like big tush. Therefore, by you having one is a good thing. I have a big old forehead, but you don't see me complaining, do you? All right, go over. Oh, Edith, I need help.
I would say you do. Come here, let me tie it.
May I ask why we're going to this thing?
Because our children graciously bought us tickets and reservations to the show. So you and I are going to go out, have dinner
Without
snails. Go see Cats and try to have a good time whether you like it or not.
I just don't understand why it has to be a Broadway show.
Because everyone needs a little culture in their lives.
If you want culture, we got some gargoyles on the roof.
Harry, you are being very close-minded. You things in this world besides your plants.
Don't you think I know that, Edith?
I am not talking about Baywatch. Harry, you just have to realize that there is good in this world. There's good in everything.
And you actually believe this?
If I didn't, would I be married to you?
Good point.
Harry, tonight marks a whole lot of years together. And in this day and age, that is no minor thing. We have beat the odds and managed to keep our love burning. So can we put away the bickering and the bantering and try to have a good time tonight, please?
Fine, I guess I can enjoy myself.
Good.
Just as long as you know I don't have to like it.
Okay.
Well, I've put this off long enough.
What are you doing? Oh, Harry, you didn't have to give me a gift.
Yeah, right. If I didn't get you anything, you'd be tracing my tush all over the room.
Well, if it's expensive, I might still chase your tush all around the room.
You're a little vixen, aren't you?
I'm an old vixen. Some things you never lose.
Well, happy anniversary, Bee.
Oh, Harry, you haven't called me that in years. It's beautiful. Thank you, Harry.
Yep. There she goes.
I told you to get your back fixed.
I see the hypochondriac next week, dear.
Chiropractor.
Whatever.
Well, now it's my turn.
Good. I was beginning to think you forgot about me. In the midst of it all. Trees and trees graciously gave you to me. Well, Edith, for the first time in our many years together, I'm at a loss for words. I may have made a few wisecracks about it earlier, but for that I apologize. I love it. Thank you.
Thank you, Harry.
Now, let's go already.
Thank you.
All right, well, this is my prose. Almost the first thing that happened to me when I moved to South Florida was that I got attacked by a fire ant. This, of course, was my own stupid fault. See, because I sat on my lawn. Insects are probably one of the world's most annoying creatures. They bite, buzz, swarm, sting anything within flying distance. But the worst of these has to be the Florida fire ant. America's favorite columnist, Dave Barry, gives his insightful look on how to control these bothersome pests in Florida's Fire Ants Are Headed for Trouble by Dave Barry. I thought it was safe because I had come from Pennsylvania, where lawns are harmless ecosystems consisting of 93% crabgrass, well, my lawn was anyway, 6% real grass, and 1% cute little critters like worms and ladybugs, and industrious worker ants who scurry around carrying objects that are 800 times their own weight. Granted, they don't use these objects, they just carry them around. That's how industrious they are. But your South Florida lawn, on the other hand, is a seething mass of predatory, carnivorous organisms, including land crabs, alligators, snakes ranging from the thickness of a knitting needle to the thigh of Oprah Winfrey. Lizards the size of small dogs, giant hairy spiders that appear to have recently eaten small dogs and are now wearing their pelts as trophies. But the scariest South Florida lawn dweller is the fire ant, a quarter-inch long insect that can easily defeat a full-grown human being in hand-to-hand combat. That's what happened to me. I merely sat on my lawn, put my hands down, and youch! Woo! A fire ant, let's call him Arnie, injected me with this special recipe fire ant venom.
and then watched with a merry twinkle in each of his 5,684 eyes as I danced and leaped wildly around, brushing uselessly at my hand, which felt as though I had stuck it in a pizza oven. And I'm sure the other ants had a hearty laugh when Arnie got back to the colony and communicated this story by releasing humor pheromones. Then this moron put his hand down. Yes, on the lawn. Oh, he must be from Pennsylvania. Now, granted, that happened years ago. My hand just recently finished healing. So as you can tell, I am not a fan of fire ants. This is why I was so excited when I read a story by Jennifer Maloney of the Miami Herald about a U.S. Department of Agriculture system, right in my own neighborhood, to control fire ants by releasing a wondrous little creature called the decapitating forward fly. This is an amazing fly that kills fire ants via a method that, if insects wrote horror novels, would have been dreamed up by the fire ant Stephen King. What happens is the female forward fly swoops in on a fire ant and in less than 1/10 of a second injects an egg into the ant's midsection. When the egg hatches, the maggot crawls up inside the ant and, here's the good part, eats the entire contents of the ant's head. Now, granted, this poses a serious medical problem for the ant, which, after walking around a couple of weeks with its insides being eaten, actually has its head fall off. And at this point, it becomes a contestant on The Bachelorette. But anyway, at this point, the ant is deceased. Meanwhile, inside the detached head, the maggot turns into a fly and, when it's ready, crawls out and goes looking for more ants. You can see an amazing video of forward flies in action at www.cmave.usda.gov/fireant/news1/HTM. The video, which has a soundtrack of wild jungle-style drum music, shows female flies zipping around fire ants like tiny little fighter planes, giving the ants fits. The video also shows how when a fly isn't quite fast enough, it gets turned into Purina ant chow. But anyway, on a recent Friday, I went to watch University of Florida Extension agent Adrian Huntsberger and Miami-Dade County biologist Ruben Regalado release forward flies on the grounds of Baptist Hospital in Kendall. To start the procedure, Ruben stuck a shovel into a fire ant mound and turned over a bunch of dirt. Immediately, fire ants charged and began scurrying angrily around. "They're looking for the one who disturbed their mound," said Adrian. "I had nothing to do with disturbing your mound," I yelled at the ants. "Ruben disturbs your mound. I am here as a journalist. It's important to maintain your objectivity." But while the mound was swarming, Adrian opened a vial and released a bunch of forward flies. The flies, which are almost invisible, little swooping specks, immediately went after the ants. Well, at least the females did. Presumably the males, observing the universal guy top priority, tried to mate with the females. But anyway, I think it is a terrific idea using natural enemies to attack fire ants. To the Department of Agriculture, I say, good work. And to the female forward flies, I say, you go, girls. To any ant that happens to be crawling across this script, I say, remember, I did not disturb your mound.
Okay, our next performance will be from TJ Rathbun. He is a third-year senior. This is be his first year going to state. He is also qualified in IDA, and he will be doing his prose for you. Having trouble there, Burks?
Yep.
nestled in among some nice, rich topsoil, lived a family of worms. One evening, the three of them, father, mother, and little worm's son, sat down to their usual dinner of dirt. They had just begun to dine when the little worm, staring wide-eyed at his meal, suddenly spit out his food and screamed, "Ew! There's a hair in my dirt!" No. At first, the little worm was horrified, but soon that gave way to being just plain mad. "I hate being a worm! All we ever do is crawl around in this stupid ground. Oh, and how can I forget? We eat dirt! Dirt, dirt, dirt. And look, now there's even a hair in my dirt. I hate being a worm." Now, Father Worm, a proud invertebrate, was glaring at what he considered to be an ungrateful and ignorant son. Well, 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 let me get this straight. Not only is your mother's dirt not good enough for you, but you feel being a worm ain't exactly a charmed life, eh? My boy, it's time I tell you a story, and this story has a happy ending. Coming to grips with your fated lot in life can be difficult, even for a small worm. Father Worm uses this once-upon-a-time story to help teach his son a valuable lesson in his role in nature in There's a Hair in My Dirt by Gary Larson. Once upon a time in a forest not too far from here lived a beautiful young maiden. Her name was Harriet, and Harriet enjoyed the magic of nature. One lovely spring morning, she decided to take a stroll. La 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 la. Oh, what wondrous things will I see today! I must say, she was as excited as a tapeworm in a meat patty. With her first steps, Harriet took a deep breath and filled her lungs with the fresh air. Oh, thank you, trees and other plants. Thank you for making the air so crisp and clean. Well, as any worm with half a ganglion knows, the plants did a little more than make the air crisp and clean. They made the air air. Around the bend, the forest opened into a meadow of wildflowers as far as the eye could see. Oh my, I'm gazing at a painting! Oh, Mother Nature, what an artist you are! Oh, Mother Nature, what a sex maniac you are! May have been a better choice of words, for Harriet was actually gazing upon a reproductive battlefield, using bright colors, nectar, mimicry, and deception, and whatever other tricks they had up their sleeves. These floral sirens were competing for the attention of pollinating insects. In a field of flowers, all's fair in bugs and war. Harriet thought she saw something move in the tall grass near her feet. She lunged forward and came up to her prize. Hello, Mr. Frog. Should I kiss you and see if you turn into a prince? Fortunately for Harriet, she didn't kiss this little creature, for it wasn't Mr. Frog she was holding, but Mr. Toad. And like most toads, this one packed a powerful, sometimes lethal toxin in its skin. Now, kissing out of your species is not really recommended, son, but if you have to, always choose a gastropod over an amphibian. Then, without warning, Harriet came across something she didn't want to see, a sight that chilled her blood. Ah! A snake! And trapped within the serpent's coils, being slowly suffocated, was a small, helpless mouse. The poor creature was emitting faint squeaks, and his scared eyes seemed to meet Harriet's in one last look of hope. Acting quickly, Harriet grabbed a nearby stick and began striking the reptile repeatedly. Take that, you dreadful thing! Bonk, and that! Bonk, and 2 more! Bonk, bonk! Soon it was over. The snake was dead. Harriet reached down and gently removed the unconscious mouse from the snake's lifeless coils. And as the fair maiden watched, a miracle occurred. The little mouse stirred. He got groggily to his feet, looked up at Harriet, and wiggled his nose. As she held the little mouse in one hand, she wiped a tear away with the other. She put the little fellow back down at her feet, where he quickly bounded off in the tall grass, safe and sound. Harriet headed home. Good had triumphed over evil, and the forest was just a little bit safer for everyone. Well, actually, that cute little mouse she saved was a vector for a very deadly disease. When Harriet wiped that tear away from her eye, a virus invaded her body. And then one lovely spring morning, Harriet, delirious with fever, stumbled out of her little cottage, fell over, and died. She died? What kind of story is that? That's supposed to cheer me up? Boy, I'm really full of warm, wormy feelings now. Thanks, Dad. Look, my boy, I'm afraid you haven't quite grasped the point of this story. You see, Harriet loved nature, but loving nature is not the same as understanding it. And Harriet not only misunderstood the things she saw, but also her own connections to them. Connections, that's the fateful key to understanding the natural world. Take us worms, for example. Heck, we're invertebrates, my boy, but as a whole, we're the movers and shakers of this planet. Spineless superheroes. That's what we are. The little worm sat there for a moment, thinking about what his father had just told him. And it was true. He was feeling a little bit better about his lot in life. But then he remembered something. Okay, I get it. Being a worm ain't so bad. But you're wrong about one thing. That story didn't have a happy ending. You said it would have a happy ending. Well, it does, if you're a worm.
And finally, our last performer will be Peyton Kendall. He's a third-year senior. This is his second year to state, and he is qualified in IDA, and he will be performing his prose for you. With his hat off.
I got hat hair. That's bad. It's gonna be on TV. In the real world, people go to cemeteries after they die. But in the Tarotverse, people go to cemeteries moments before they die. Boneyards are the hubs of just about every horror subgenre because cemeteries stir the creepiest nooks of our imagination. They're the place where our comfy little lives end and the long winter of death begins. And sooner or later, screenwriters will steer you to one. If you're any kind of horror movie survivalist, you'll run at the first sign of an epitaph. However, if the plot has made it impossible to avoid carrying a shovel through the gates, don't just gallop in, or you might end up staying far longer than you planned. Watching a horror movie can cause many different human reactions. Fear, humor, fear. You either love them or you hate them. But what if you find yourself trapped inside a horror movie? Finally, someone has prepared a guide to help us conquer our fears of the unknown. It is taken from How to Kill the Living Dead by Seth Graham-Smith. Lesson 1. Test the soil's regenerative properties. All cemetery dirt has at least some regenerative ability. The question is, does it take years or minutes to work its magic? On your way to the graveyard, stop by the market and pick up a fish with its head still on. Before you venture too far into the cemetery, bury the fish just below the surface. Wait 5 minutes and then exhume it. Interpret the results as follows. The fish is dead. Marvelous. Proceed with caution. The fish is wiggling. Ever so slightly. This is probably a discouraging sign. This means that anything you bury won't stay buried for long, and anything you dig up will be at least partially alive. Ooh, get off me. The fish is biting you. Not only is the soil extremely fast acting, but anything you exhume is going to be at full strength. In other words, anything you bury that isn't already evil will soon become so.
Oh, hot, hot! The fish bursts into flames! This is probably really bad. Run away! Lesson 2. Drive in and get your 4x4 as close to the burial site as possible before you step out, even if it means toppling a few headstones. And when you're on foot, avoid walking over graves. Not because it's disrespectful, but because you're practically begging a zombie to thrust its hand up and grab your ankle. Anyone who's killed by a zombie ought to be ashamed of themselves. It's the equivalent of a fighter jet being blown out of the sky by a Nerf dart. Humans are superior to zombies in every imaginable way. We're faster, smarter, stronger, more adaptable, and better looking. And yet, in zombie movies, our so-called heroes sit around scratching their heads and become hysterical while an army of dead amasses outside instead of simply planning a counterattack. What are we going to do? There must be 2-3 dozen of them in the front yard. At the rate they're moving, they'll make it to the porch in a few hours. Lesson 3. If you're trapped in a movie that pits you against a partially decomposed, laughably uncoordinated enemy, don't retreat. Defeat. Follow these 5 steps. Step 1. Stop being so pathetic. Pull yourself together. You're the human. You possess complex problem-solving capabilities. Stop acting like the prey and start acting like the hunter. What? I mean, of course you're scared. Your self-confidence has been rattled by fear. So let's puff up that chest and review all the ways why humans are way, way more awesome than zombies. Speed. Humans can walk at a good clip. Zombies use tortoises as skateboards. Complex problem-solving abilities. Humans send robots to Mars. Zombies are baffled by doorknobs. Weaponry. Humans have a vast supply of guns, knives, chemicals, and explosives at our dexterous fingertips. A zombie's arsenal includes teeth and... no, just teeth. Strength. Zombies aren't stronger than humans. On the contrary, their muscles have begun to rot, making them weak and brittle. Step 2. Arm yourself. At the first sign of a zombie outbreak, raid the local gun shops, sporting goods stores, and we sell everything ever made mega stores. And procure some instruments of destruction. And shoot first. Never ask questions. If something moves, just shoot it. Either you've just dropped a zombie that was headed for the smell of your tasty brains, or you've killed an innocent old lady laying a wreath on her husband's grave. Either way, sleep well knowing it's better to be wrong than dead. Zombies are famously terrified of fire, and with good reason. They're much more flammable than we are, since their flesh is so dry, and they aren't exactly nimble. And in fact, very few manage to stop, drop, and roll after they've been lit. Step 3. Set a trap. Sure, you can roam the countryside for months taking on zombies one by one, but who has that kind of time? Zombies are cattle. Just drive them to the slaughterhouse. Here's one way of terminating a truckload of deadheads at once. Simply start by placing an explosive device in a confined area. Then lure the zombies with fresh, tasty brains, particularly not yours. Then you just wait for them to arrive, take cover, and detonate the explosives. Kerblammy! Step 4. Burn the bodies. Using a push broom or shovel, move the body parts outside, douse them in unleaded gasoline, and roast them. Take extreme care to keep the blood and saliva away from your skin, and don't breathe in the resulting smoke. It could contain traces of the zombie virus. Step 5. Repeat as needed. The great thing about zombies, they keep falling for it. Why? Because they're stupid. And we are awesome. Thank you.
Hi,
right, again, thank you all very much for coming. We appreciate your support. Thank you, thank you. There will be ice cream in the hallway. Help yourself.